Hi, it's a lovely May sunny day, perfect for a swarm. So I'm going to talk about bee swarming, all aspects of it. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about why bees swarm, and then actually how they swarm, and then how you can actually prevent them from swarming, and finally talk about how to actually collect your swarm of bees. In my view, it's one of the wonders of nature, one of the wonders of the world. So I'll first of all show you how the process goes without bees, because it's a lot more of a controlled environment, and then I'll show you a link to one of my videos where I actually capture some bees from a wild ash tree which was well over 100 years old. It started hollowing out like old trees quite often do, and how nice to be able to show you how bees have actually been doing it for well over 100 million years, and I'm hoping well over another 100 million years after the likes of you and I have finished messing around with this planet of ours. And then I'll finally show you another video which actually will show you how I take the nucleus box, remove the bees and put them into my top bar hive. Okay, so let's get cracking. Why do bees swarm? Well, it's their way of multiplying, of extending the family, if you like. What will trigger the bees to swarm is when they think it's the right time to split forces and commence another colony. So what makes them think that? You've got to get into their way of thinking. Usually it's because they feel it's the right time of the year, there's plenty of food about, and also their home is in a very strong position. There's lots of food, there's lots and lots of bees. There may not be enough room left for the queen to keep on laying. Maybe it's because there's not enough ventilation in there, it's too hot, so they're thinking, right, let's some of us try and find somewhere else to live. So all these factors have a bearing, but when they decide to swarm, they will. How and when do bees swarm? So the process is, once the bees have decided they are going to swarm, then the worker bees will identify anywhere between 3 upwards of usually 1-day-old eggs laid by the old queen, and then they will feed them a special potion. They have all the various nutrients in their hive, the different pollens and the nectar, and they will make this wonderful magical substance that we know as royal jelly. They will then feed these particular chosen eggs this royal jelly, and they will produce a much bigger cell called a queen cell for the queens to develop, and that's how they produce their new queen. So what happens then? Well, the old queen will sense it's the right time to depart, to leave the colony, because if she doesn't, she will be killed. So she will, on one sunny day, between usually 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock, the old queen will decide to depart with her entourage, which is a large part of your old bees, and they will gather outside of the hive and depart. Where do they choose to swarm? Well, they will have sent out some scouts from the hive to see where the best locations are, usually within a local area, although it can be a little bit further. They are looking for a temporary home to get themselves out of the way of the new colony, which has got a new queen shortly, and that will be going out to mate to start the whole cycle again. So here's a few pictures that show you the sort of places that bees would choose for an initial swarming location. So how can you prevent your bees from swarming? So going back one step, I've spoken to you about the various reasons why the bees will decide that they want to swarm. So you can prevent that by making sure there's space in the brood box, or putting another brood box on and that sort of thing. If you do find you've got queen cells already, then you can remove the frame with the queen cells on, maybe leave one or two, and then produce another nucleus hive. So you can get another nucleus hive. That's like a controlled split, as we call it. Alternatively, you can keep knocking the queen cells off, which is great. That will stop your bees swarming temporarily, but you might find as fast as you're knocking them off, they will be producing more because they've made their minds up. They're going to swarm. They want to swarm. So let's take it one step beyond that. Let's just say that they are going to swarm. Some people snip a wing of the queen, so this will prevent your queen from disappearing with half of your valuable bees. If I don't personally do that, but if you do this, then you will find the queens will still swarm, but they will just crawl out because they can't fly, and you'll probably find your new swarm of bees hanging off the side of the hive or the stand or something like that. Other beekeepers, to try and prevent the queen from leaving the hive, will put a queen excluder between the brood box and the floor. So as you can imagine, the whole process will be happening in there. There'll be an awful lot of confusion in the hive because the new queen cells will have hatched, but the old queen can't go anywhere. So there is that way of doing it. I personally don't do that either. So how do you identify that the swarm is going to leave the hive? That's the next thing. A lot of confusion, especially with beginners. Have a little look at this picture and you will see what is called bearding, which is not swarming. So as you can see, there's a large quantity of bees clustered around the front of the hive. There's lots of reasons why they do this. One of them can be just because they're having a bit of a rest and it's a bit hot in there. So that isn't activity prior to swarming. Have a look at this video though, this picture, and it will show you a hive where they are going to imminently swarm. As you can see, they're all clustered out the front there. There's lots of frenetic activity there because they're gathering forces ready for the queen to lead them off into the sunset or around the corner. Who knows? They will have already sent scouts out who will have come back, reported back to the other workers, and they will know usually where they're going. So at this stage, here's a little handy hint. Swarm season, I always carry a spray of water. So if you see this happening, if you're lucky enough to see this just about to occur, then you literally just spray the front of your hive with water like this, and any bees you can see flying, give it loads and loads of this. Reason is you are fooling the bees into thinking that it's a rainy day. So they will always swarm, as I said before. They'll swarm between usually 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon on a sunny day, which obviously can be a big problem. If you've had a couple of rainy weeks before then, you can't go in there to inspect because it's not the right weather, and you may well have a queen who's itching to get out on the first break of sunshine. So this will say it's a rainy day, get back home, which I've actually been successful and actually done that a few times, but obviously you haven't prevented the whole mentality of them swarming. So then you've got to act quickly to do something about why they are swarming. But it will save the day if you're panicking. Okay, I'm going to quickly talk you through and demonstrate the process of gathering in a swarm of bees. It'll be in a controlled way so you can see the process start to finish without any actual bees to make things more confusing. Then if you want to see my videos afterwards, you can do. So first of all, I suggest you get the following bits of equipment ready in case you get that phone call or you find a swarm. You've got to act quickly. So I've got some deodorant here, some secateurs, a bee brush. On the floor here under this lovely apple tree, you can see I've got a few spare frames. I've got an old sheet laid on the ground, and I've got a nucleus box here, nucleus hive, you could just as easily use an old cardboard box, or you could use a traditional bee skep as shown in this picture. So what's the process? I'm guessing the bees would be about here on a branch ideally. This is the ideal sort of place that they will choose for a temporary abode before the scouts return back and tell everybody where they're going to go and live permanently. So you've got sometimes a very small window, a matter of minutes or hours before they will clear off again, or overnight if you're very lucky. And the more permanent place they will finally decide to live will probably be far less accessible. Could be down a chimney, could be under the floorboards, could be in the cavity of somebody's house, all over the shop. And remember, if you can't get to the queen, then you have no chance of removing a swarm of bees, because they will always follow the queen and the queen's unique smell, the pheromones. So I'm going to shake the bees as hard as I can into the box. Have a look at this picture of a typical swarm. Then quickly I'm going to pop it on the sheet. The sheet should be as close as you possibly can to where you have found your swarm. I would then, if I have the time, place a few frames back into the nucleus box. This is not essential, but if you can, it will save an awful lot of time later on. I will then quickly place the lid on and upturn the box like this. I will then lift it up so that I've created an entrance for the bees to come in. There'll be lots of bees there, there'll be all sorts of activity here, and then you'll see lots of bees. If you do have the queen, you'll see lots of bees with their tails in the air, fanning like mad, trying to push that unique smell of the queen into the atmosphere so the rest of the bees will have smelt it and go in there. Your work is pretty much then done. You can go away, relax, have a cup of tea. One thing I would say though is that anywhere that has been not contaminated but touched by the bees or by the queen will have its unique pheromone still lingering. So if it's on the tree with this deodorant, just give it all a good old spray. That saves confusion and makes sure that the only smell of the queen is coming from where you want them to end up. So then you come back at dusk, you will find all the bees will have gone in there, fingers crossed of course. Then you just close the nuke box or the box. I've got a nuke box here which has got a mesh top, which is quite useful when you're transporting bees because it will make sure they don't overheat. And some people just sprinkle water there if it's a long journey, because if they do overheat they will die. You then wrap the sheet around your box like that. You can wrap another one around there if you want, or even strap them if you're going to put them in the car, and then you'll take them away and you'll locate your nucleus box in its permanent position. Obviously you may have noticed I've got a bunch of grass there because I'm going to leave the nucleus box closed overnight. Reason for that being that I want them to get used to their new home. There is a chance that they will disappear the next day, but usually, like I say, fingers crossed, they'll stay put. Obviously next day, permanent position, remove the grass, and there you have your new colony.